Craig, we're about 30 minutes from kickoff between Munich and Borussia Dortmund, so we have just that amount of time to look back at last week in the Bundesliga, which means another USMNT in the Bundesliga Power Rankings. Craig, a segment that was so popular, so discussed, you even brought it up on ESPN FC during the week.
Yeah.
I know you watch all our content here on the ESPN FC YouTube channel. Don't pretend like you don't. Okay,
I don't even watch the content that I'm involved in. Never mind the content anybody else is involved in.
Why are you changing it now?
Why don't we talk about proper players in Bundesliga? Why don't we talk about the Canadian player?
It'd be a very short power ranking, but it would be indeed very impressive. Look, there was so much feedback on this segment last week. It went straight up to the top of corporate, and they said you have to change the format. It can not only be Seb's power rankings. So, Herc, you're going to do a power rankings as well, but we'll save the best for last. So we'll get through mine first. Here are my top 5 from the weekend.
I just want to clarify. Now it's not American power ranking. It's U.S. men's national team, because last week it was only American.
Sure, whatever you want it to be.
Okay.
However your top 5 feels for you in this moment. I'm very generous given the circumstances.
I can tell.
Here's number 5 for me. Gio Reyna comes off the bench, 11 minutes. Dortmund beats Wolfsburg. Number 4, Josh Sargent starts.
Is that always? Have you only just? Hold on. Can I say, if you put a big toe on the field, is there a possibility you'll get into this top 5?
I mean, there's only so many U.S. men's national team players in the Bundesliga, so yeah.
How many is there? 6?
Well, about 7 or 8, I think.
Depending on who you consider in the pool, there's just under 10. So if you're in it, you've got a half a chance. Josh Sargent 4, Alfredo Morales 3. He goes 90 minutes for Dusseldorf. Tyler Adams, and a stat that Craig will love. 28 of 28 passing. 100% passing in his 30 minutes on the field, Craig. I know you love those statistics. Tyler Adams, number 2 on my list. And
I'll tell you why, before we get to your number one, you know what you can do with those passing stats? You can stick them where the sun doesn't shine. I'll tell you why. I used to have this when I played in the Premier League. We'd come in on a Monday morning, and I had one manager in particular who would say, he would get all the stats out. He ran 12 kilometres, who cares? His passing stats were 97%, who cares? Let me tell you why. If I come in as a midfield player, or, but just me as a central midfielder, and my passing stats were above 95%, I'm not doing my job, because I'm not trying that pass to Herculez Gomez, the striker, who's making the run, who's bending the runs in behind, and I'm trying to feed that ball into him. I'm trying to make that pass count. Because when that happens, some of the passes don't come off. But it only takes that one killer pass to the striker or the wide guy, and you're in. If I want to pad my passing stats, I can stand in the middle of the park and I can pass it to the fullback, I can pass it to the centre half, and I can pass it 5 yards. Am I making myself crystal clear? Passing stats are a nonsense.
Very clear. Craig Burley, 28 of 28. Perfect isn't even good enough for you. Let's see if you're impressed by number 1 on my list and what he did. And that's John Brooks, who went 90 minutes against Dortmund. Yes, they lost, but he went 90 minutes against Erling Haaland. You tell me, Craig, has Haaland been more quiet in a match than what we saw this past weekend?
Well, he's saving himself for this the Classica today. That's what it is.
You're not going to give John Brooks any credit. Haaland was quiet.
I'll if you keep that boy off the score sheet, then you've done a good job. But he was resting.
Herc, you got any problems with my top 5?
I do. I've got a problem with your number 1. I think the rest of them are debatable. The number 1, John Brooks, I thought he didn't have a great game at all. He was at fault, I would say, for both goals. He was at part. He was out of position, typical John Brooks fashion. When very rarely do I criticize him, but when I do, it's his positioning. Both goals, he was caught out of position, bad tackle, which led to the second goal. He was directly at play in both goals. I don't care if Haaland didn't score. He was directly at play for his teams. And I understand it's Dortmund. I understand it's Wolfsburg and what all this entails. But he was involved in those goals. So I had him on my list, not on it.
Let me ask you this about John Brooks, because the difference in our opinion is also kind of the difference in John Brooks' game. Like, he's either a world beater or it can be catastrophic. How much of an issue is that for the national team? Because every 11 we look at with the U.S. has Brooks in it, seemingly.
No, it's not that much of an issue because I still think he's clearly the best center back the U.S. men's national team has in that pool. He's just the most complete, and he's playing at the highest level day in and day out. We never have a question of will he get into the 18 or the lineup. It's not a question with John Brooks. He's consistent. Will he have the eventual, just error that some center backs are prone to? Yes, but his upside is just so much higher than the rest of the team. It's head and shoulders above. That I don't have any issues or worries when it comes to John Brooks.
All right, Herc, let's get to your power rankings. U.S. men's national team in the Bundesliga for the past weekend. What do you got?
It's very simple. Gio Reyna, number 5. He came off the bench, played 11 minutes. I doubt he touched the ball very much. I didn't see much of him. But it's what's going to happen. He's getting ready, which is pretty much primes him with the amount of games that are going to come up for a start against Bayern Munich. And that's going to be a huge start if he gets it. His first start against that team in that Clasico. Second, Alfredo Morales. I thought he was superb up until the final 10 minutes when Fortuna Dusseldorf just pretty much let it slip away. 2 goals in the final 10 minutes to lose that lead. It was a heartbreaker for them, but I thought he was steady. Number 3, Weston McKennie. I don't think he's been his best this year. I think this season he's been sloppy at times with the ball. He's been careless. Yes, you still get that same energy and effort that you always get from Weston, that spirited, just American play that he's always been, I guess, known for. But maybe it's Schalke. Maybe it's his team. Maybe it's David Wagner and the tactics he's been employing because he was deeper, almost connected to that defensive line, and I don't think he felt as comfortable. I got him at number 3. Number 2, Tyler Adams coming off the bench. And yes, I'm with Craig. These passing stats sometimes don't matter at all. For me in that position, that defensive midfield position, I take more, I guess, pride in him and his defensive ability, his defensive game in transition, the amount of fires he put out before they even start. That to me is more important for Tyler Adams. I thought he was superb in that and holding the lead and getting out of there within a very easy 3 points. And number 1, it's got to be Josh Sargent. Josh Sargent's been suffering for playing time. I think he played 63 minutes. The man didn't register a shot on goal, not one shot on goal. But Craig will tell you, when you're in a relegation battle, you scrap, you claw, you fight for everything you have. And sometimes it's going to be ugly like that. And sometimes you need that forward who's going to wear down defense, who's going to wear down the opponent, and just scrap away with that must-needed 3 points. And he did that. So he was clearly the best for me out of this bunch for this weekend.
Craig, have I undervalued what Josh Sargent did? I mean, look, it is a big 3 points for a team that desperately needed it. And if we're being honest, Werder Bremen has looked pretty humble since returning.
Yeah, and got walloped the week before when he was on the bench. It's always difficult playing on a side, particularly up front, for a team that's struggling and generally doesn't create many chances. As for Tyler Adams as a holding midfielder, I'd still look to be somebody to be trying to spray a few passes around, hence, not having the padded stats. But that's not the be-all and end-all to his game. Let me tell you how low the bar is for this top 5. Herculez Gomez almost made it in, just on the basis he had a haircut and he's had a shave. There you go.
Hey, man, again, like last week, sometimes by not playing, you move yourself up the ranking. Herc, one final thing. We seem to have a very different opinion on Weston McKennie, although what you said about Weston McKennie is kind of how I felt about his performance in both games. Why did you put him at number 3 and then followed up with kind of the criticism?
The rest of the I guess field, if you would say. I mean, he's consistently playing. The man plays in multiple positions. He's asked to do things that most players aren't asked to do. I think David Wagner's got his hands full, not only with Weston McKennie because he's still in his prime development years, but with that team, who knows? He could be in trouble. I don't see Weston as this, and I'm going to throw out a name like Rafa Marquez that has that ability to play as a defensive midfielder, but then can slot in between, or Mascherano, between these 2 center backs and kind of feel comfortable there. He's had some very sloppy giveaways at times, and I don't feel comfortable with my player being so deep, not taking care of the ball the way that Weston has. Weston is much better than he's shown these last 2 games, but because of the rest of the field, I couldn't put him any lower or any higher.
Craig, we're criticizing Weston McKennie, but how bad have Schalke been?
Well, it's been a horrendous start, and reports this week that David Wagner is under extreme pressure, and I can see that. He's going to have to turn that around very, very quickly, but that defeat at the weekend was pretty horrendous for them. Bearing in mind when the lockdown started again, they were pretty much in the mix for those European places, and were seen as a very hard game actually for Dortmund. I think they played Dortmund first day out and kind of rolled over for them. So yeah, he's under pressure. Whilst other sides like Bayer Leverkusen who were outside the top 4, I think, when we resumed this in the Bundesliga, have kicked on and have actually put themselves, depending on results today with Dortmund and Munich, actually back in the title race. So their fortunes have been very different to a struggling Schalke.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.